Cinematography is one of the biggest, most important and progressive leading aspects of the production process in filmmaking. In films, TV, music videos and more recently even in video games using motion capture technology, cinematography is a fundamental technique in the industry that requires enough emotion, if used correctly, to convey how the audience reacts to every shot on screen. The same rules can even apply to photography too, as some pictures can convey different ranges of emotion. Like these images of the northern lights and flowers can make you feel happiness, for example. Filmmakers have used these factors to help build their techniques into their pictures, starting from the classics like It's a Wonderful Life back in 1947.
What do you know about that? Merry Christmas! Well, Merry Christmas!
To the modern blockbusters like Fantastic Beasts and La La Land. This video will explain the history and how crucial cinematography is in the industry, and how it can be used to express and evoke the emotion of happiness. Have you ever watched a film and stumbled upon a shot that was so breathtaking you thought to yourself, wow, that was gorgeous? Well, behind that gorgeous angle was a cinematographer, perhaps not necessarily operating the camera, but at least painting the look of the film. Cinematography grew in the years that followed, and new methods were invented, such as being able to bring sound and colour into film. The first film to be released with sound was a musical film called The Jazz Singer, released in 1927. When it came to colour, the most notable mentions are The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, released in 1939. The Wizard of Oz was a famous fantasy film that brought true happiness to the screen, with its bright use of colours and how the camera work showed off some of its features that brought smiles to the audiences everywhere. Such as the first time Dorothy entered the land of Oz,
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore,
and her companions walk into the Emerald City. The colours in both these scenes are eye-catching upon first sight. The camera manages to catch this perfectly by shifting its focus on long shots and establishing shots to keep the colourful sets surrounding the characters in the shot. To this day, Wizard of Oz is considered a cinematic achievement in film. Some films, however, continue to display its black and white filter until the 1960s, but a particular favourite, It's a Wonderful Life, was a film that was another grand achievement in filmmaking. The film itself encourages everyone in its audiences to feel happiness. Examples are the final shots of the film, such as the shot when James Stewart runs down the street in the snow dancing and shouting Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, George! Merry Christmas, movie home! Merry Christmas, Emporium!
This scene is alone happy, not because of how the camera followed the character dancing, and obviously happy, but the music that lies in the background of the scene gives the audience a warm feeling inside their bodies, and sometimes you can't help but smile. The same goes for the final scene where the main character is with his family on Christmas Day, and the camera focuses on the smile on their faces all together.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right. Attaboy, Clarence.
There are various techniques that cinematographers use in order to capture scenes visually straight from the pages of a script. The techniques are described as to how the camera operator uses the camera to capture the scene in particular.
My profession's very complicated. It's very nuanced. Well, look who decided to show up for class.
The 11 most essential techniques are close-ups, over-the-shoulder shots, tilt shots, panning shots, zoom shots, tracking shots, crane shots, track-in shots, Dutch angles, and the shots where mixing focal lengths in a scene to make one character dominate over the other. Close-ups are pretty simple, are oftentimes very essential to capture an emotion of a character in a scene. It is also the easiest to film since it isn't as complex and time-consuming as the other filming techniques. Over-the-shoulder shots are shots with an actor's shoulder in the foreground, out of focus. This technique is a very time-consuming one in terms of knowing how much shoulder you want in the shot, but it is narratively essential in most cases. From a narrative point of view, over-the-shoulder shots draw the viewer in by creating a sense of intimacy, depending on how much screen area the shoulder in the foreground occupies for the other characters.
Well, what are you talking about? What happens to us in the future? Will we become assholes or something?
Tilting up or down is one of the simplest camera techniques there are. Due to its simplicity, it tends to be overused and poorly executed. The truth is that well executed tilting combined with some interesting action with perfect coordination between the camera operator and the action itself can be incredibly elegant in their simplicity. If you want to see further examples of tilt shots and the circumstances that make them appropriate, check out pretty much any film by Steven Spielberg, especially Schindler's List.
It will take more than that.
I'm sure you're right.
Zoom shots are extremely cool if you get them right, and successfully blend them in with your directional style. The best examples are from the Ridley Scott directed pictures like Gladiator and Hannibal and Alien that use the zoom to further exposition in its story, or use it for dramatic effect.
What are you staring at, fucker?
Tracking shots are used when a camera is placed on a dolly and moved on a track to follow the actor in the shot. For a truly visually dynamic tracking shot, foreground objects located between the camera and the main subject are essential. Foreground objects will enhance parallax, which is the visual effect in which objects closer to the frame appear to be moving faster in the field of view than those that are more distant. One of the most visually stunning tracking shots comes from the motion captured animated film The Adventures of Tintin, The Secret of the Unicorn. Crane shots are used to achieve vertical translational motion. Whenever you see a camera moving up or down a few feet in the film, it was done on a jib or crane. These shots, however, are more expensive to film than any regular shots and are usually only needed if absolutely necessary for a film. Usually only big budget films use these shots like the Bond films and the usual action films. A Dutch angle is a shot that is rotated about the camera axis, resulting in tilted verticals. Dutch angles are used to elicit a sense of unease and disorientation in the viewer. In narrative filmmaking, Dutch angles should be used sparingly, reserving them for the rare occasions in which they are narratively appropriate. For example, the most famous movies to use these were Die Hard and 4 in particular, but there was also a famous scene from Mission Impossible set in a restaurant where Tom Cruise is meeting with an associate after a mission went wrong. Note how the Dutch angle is used when Tom Cruise gets a big bombshell dropped on him about how the mission went bad.
He got himself in a position to buy our knock list. Operation he referred to as Job 314, the job he thought Galitzin was doing tonight.
The list Clinton stole was a decoy.
When covering a scene with shots and reverse shots, it is a good practice to use exactly the same lens for the two complementary shots. If two characters are talking and you cover the scene with a complementary over-the-shoulder shots, and you want to make one character look a lot more dominant than the other, you can use a wide lens when shooting over the shoulder of the dominant character, and a longer lens when shooting over the shoulder of the other character. When you film the over the shoulder of the dominant character, he will dominate the frame because he will look much larger than the other character. Once again, Steven Spielberg films use these techniques quite often.
You and I are very much alike. Archaeology is our religion.
Another interesting technique used is the mise-en-scène technique. Mise-en-scène encompasses the most recognisable attributes of the film, which is the settings and characters. This includes props, costumes and makeup, and all other natural and artificial details that characterise the spaces that are filmed. Mise-en-scène requires us to scan every inch of every frame in films to tell us a visual story through exposition with props and other details in the frame. Shots like this beautiful composition of young George and Mr. Gower behind the drugstore bottle pills. Note the way that a distraught George stares at a potentially poisonous pill bottle while he stares at a picture of his dead son. But since I wish to tell a happier situation, take a look at this scene from Back to the Future when Marty returns to his original timeline. Look at how they make everything look in this scene. Things are different from when we first saw the beginning of the film. Now everything is all posh and brand new, including his parents, who are more well dressed and more natural looking. Even George accomplished his goal to be a writer with his new book coming into frame. Note how the characters look and feel during this scene. They are happy. Martin may be a bit shocked, but he's still happy to be home with his family. Now brand new and better than he had been before.
Like I've always told you, you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
What makes scenes like this work was with the techniques I discussed earlier. Using these techniques can express happiness when you use the techniques and the mise-en-scène theory of the camera to fully express the emotions of happiness by encouraging the audience to show them what appears on screen. If what appears on screen is something that is happy and joyous for them to behold, then the goal has been achieved by the filmmaker to make the audience happy.
You're lucky if you can walk again.
As your coach, I think you're crazy. But as your friend,
Fly.
you're Eddie the Eagle.
These scenes from these famous films, I believe, have used the best of their techniques to create a happy moment on screen, and thus make the audience feel happiness. So, acknowledge that with using the techniques for cinematography, you can express happiness with the images that the cinematographer captures with the camera, but other emotions should be considered as well when you want to express the intended emotion.